Hello fellow gamers and welcome to another NX Gamers video, this time coming from EGX. I got out and have been busy looking at some new games this week at the EGX show in Birmingham. It's moved from its usual location from London to the NEC, and it was a great day. I had a chance to speak to some developers on certain games, obviously get some hands on some of the big games, and unlike last year, what I'm going to do is break it down so that each video concentrates on one game that I played there, and where possible some direct feed footage. So what you're seeing up first is Rainbow Six Siege, the beta on the PS4. I haven't had access to play the PC or the Xbox One versions, but we do know direct from Ubisoft that the game is running a lower than 1080 resolution on the Xbox One, 1600 by 900, but they are still working on that resolution. As it stands, both games run at 60 frames per second, and obviously the PC version has ranges there on in. The version I played at the show was the PS4 version, and this is exactly what you're looking at here on screen. Direct access from the beta running on the PS4 version, like I say, 1920 by 1080 resolution and at 60 frames per second, but I'll touch on that a little bit later in the video. Aside the resolution differences, the Xbox One, PS4 and PC are pretty much identical, and the beta is looking at 3 maps with 2 game modes, and they comprise of terrorist hunt and multiplayer 5v5 maps where you have to either storm a building or defend a building and disable the bomb. This can transpire into you having to restart the game if you're attacking and use a remote control car to scope out the area, work out where the enemies are, tag them and work out where the bomb is so you've got a better idea when you go in. You can then siege the building, and if you're based inside, defend the building. This plays out, and obviously as you saw from previous videos on the game, it plays out in a defensive mode, and it works really well if you've got a team online that talk and play tactically. The big benefit of the game is it's all destructive and very physics heavy, so you can basically breach into any area. You can come in through the roof, under floors, blow out areas. Now, not everything is destructible. There is fixed sections, but it all works in the realms of reality. You can shoot through walls, destroy objects in the room. The terrorist hunt works the same way, except it's multiple players going against AI controlled bots, up to 15 I think I've seen, or 16 in the online portion of the beta. You can then still storm the building and basically try and take them all out without them taking you out first. There's 3 difficulty levels. I'd recommend playing on hard because normal is a little bit too easy. But unfortunately you won't find many games there because most people seem to be playing it on normal. But that's another part of this that I'll touch on in terms of where the game sits at the moment. In terms of visuals, it's not bad. There's quite a nice few touches. There's lots of screen space reflections going on. Pretty much everything is reflective. And there's additional cube map reflections going on to bolster those screen space reflections and make them work really well. There's also some global illumination passes. As you see here on the snooker table, you can see the green light bouncing around the room on the bottom of the table and the gun. But this isn't a screen space trick. This is based on cube maps because obviously it's fixed areas. As I turn here in the doorway, you can see the green light is still bouncing off the tabletop and hitting my gun. And again, this adds a very nice touch to the game. Whether or not they're using image-based lighting here, or obviously probes to pick this up, I don't mind, but it does look really good. There is a day-night cycle, or at least there's 2 different times of day when you're playing the maps. You do play in day and you do play in night, and you get to see the visuals outside in the day and the night, and it is quite nice. There is a PBR pass on the game. You can certainly see that running on some of the objects. The shadow quality is reasonably good for a 60 FPS game, although the cascade range is quite short, as you can see here walking back and forth. But the destruction is the biggest part of the game. Now, the game is built on the Anvil Next naming, which is the same engine that powers the Assassin's Creed games, obviously Unity and the forthcoming Assassin's Creed Syndicate, but it also has a real blast technology bolstered in. The Anvil Next does tend to be a CPU heavy game, certainly based on what we've seen so far with Unity and most likely with the forthcoming Syndicate, but there's a video coming up on that very soon, so stay tuned. But in terms of here and the real blast technology, there is a feeling that the whole thing is built around CPU and not GPU powered structures. Now, this may be something they're working on at the moment or working towards improving, but when you look at this game, it does tend to have some issues within itself that aren't directly related to visual rendering. There's nothing going on here that's stressing the machines to the point where you're seeing these drops. What you are seeing is drops caused by the engine itself and most likely CPU feeding issues, either handling the destruction itself or passing that information over to the GPU that's causing these dips. Just shooting through the door here causes drops and frames as the game plays out. Even crawling towards this door and breaking the door down causes a few more drop frames, which shouldn't really happen. Again, when you die or you're killed or you kill somebody else and the kill cam kicks in, you can certainly see even more drops, and this is where it really loses most of its frame rate, not quite hitting 30 but certainly dropping down to the low 40s at points. And yet again, it's another game that runs on adaptive VSync, and the top quarter of the screen can tear, and this then causes dropped frames also when it tries to catch back up into sync. It's not too bad, you don't really notice it, but whenever you get drops, you tend to get tearing at the same time. In general gameplay, as you're walking up on the roof or storming through the building, it doesn't really drop a frame, it holds a consistent 60 as you'd expect, but when destruction and action kicks in, it tends to hover around the 50s, and that's not something that you should really be expecting for a game of this type. So hopefully this is something they're going to work towards before launch and getting this fixed. I'm not too sure how old this beta is, but it's probably the most stable version they've got in terms of functionality. It may not be the most performant build that they've got. And with that said, proving my point even further, when you run into the terrorist hunt mode, the frame rate is halved from its 60 to 30 FPS. Now this is a big slice, especially when the game is multiplayer only. That's right, there's no single player for this game. Ubisoft have announced that. So this is a multiplayer only game, and half of your game mode types are going to be running at half the frame rate, and that does feel very jarring, going from 60 to 30 in this game. And even though there's dips in the 60 player game, it does feel a lot smoother than 30 consistently. And even then, the 30 rate isn't held consistently because there is occasional dips, long pauses, again pointing to the fact there's some issues within the engine to be sorted out, most likely CPU related at this point. And this shouldn't really be happening of a game that's this level of beta and this far from launch. There's only 2 months before this game's going to hit the stores. On top of this, there's also issues with the server, and I'm not too sure if it's running dedicated servers, but at least most of the time it seems to be running a peer-to-peer connection, with host disconnect and being disconnected from host far too regularly, and then only a couple of games successfully managed to migrate the host. In fact, one did, and everyone else that tried failed. Obviously, people come running at me for this to say it's a beta, that's the point. Yes, I know it's the beta, that's the point. But this game is 2 months from launch, and I know Ubisoft have been busy working this out because the servers have gone down a few times whilst they're working on updates and obviously patches to fix some of the issues they're seeing at the moment. And this is a beta. This is the whole point of it. It's a closed beta, and there's certainly going to be teething issues and issues within the game and the gameplay to fix, and that's what they're working on at the moment. I'm just giving you guys a heads up if you haven't played this game so far, and a game that is totally and utterly online related needs to have a very good and robust infrastructure in place to manage its online connectivity. And if they are using dedicated servers simply for matchmaking and using peer-to-peer connection, they need to work out a much better host migration system so that when people do rage quit or have issues within their home connection, at least other players can carry on playing the game and enjoy the fun that is there. And that's obviously key for a game that's completely based on online multiplayer. Now, in terms of the gameplay, it's fun, it's enjoyable, but it only really works if you're playing with a team that people talk. From a few hours over the weekend, I've only had about 3 or 4 games where people are actually talking on the game. Outside of that, everyone's playing in silence, and it makes it very difficult for you to know where to go and who to shoot. And that's the other thing the game has, which is friendly fire is on. You can see a few times I've been shot quite heavily, even though it's a much lower damage level in friendly fire. It can get frustrating when people just shoot through you to kill the enemy and nearly put you on your arse, which is not the best way to play a game like this, which is totally designed around cooperative play. That said, I am looking forward to playing this game more and hopefully getting some decent games online. Rainbow Six has a special place in my heart, with many a game and many a month wasted playing things like Rainbow Six Vegas and the original Xbox game, which was probably the biggest online game I played for a very long period of time. And I hope this captures some of that sparkle that's been lost from the Rainbow Six games. And the fact that it's only got a multiplayer option is a little bit weak, and I'm hoping that they really add some extra modes and some decent online functionality here, otherwise this game could sink much faster than it swims. As always, I hope you guys and girls enjoyed this. If so, then please hit the like and subscribe button. I'll have much more coverage coming to you over the next few days and weeks of games I've played firsthand, with some detailed in-depth previews, direct footage and information that you can only find here on NX Gamer. You guys and girls take care, and I'll see you soon on the next one.
Bomb.
I'm dry!
Going up! Cluster going live! Op 4 neutralized. Blue 4 successful.